Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I am your host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is your breakfast bankroll for Wednesday, August 24th, 2022, our weekly trip over the Sagamore Bridge, down Route 3 to 93 to meet with our man, Mr. Julian Edlow from DraftKings. A quick 30 minutes to get everyone situated on what's going on in the sports market. We do a little local flavor here, and Julian keeps us updated on what's new and fresh in the DraftKings Sportsbook, which hands down is the biggest, the most to offer. And if you don't see what you want, just ask Julian. He'll ask for you. So without further ado, let's bring him in, the one and only Mr. Julian Edlow.
You're catching on, Jeff. If you want to bet on something and you don't see it on DraftKings Sportsbook, ask me. I'll try and get it up for you.
Well, you know how we've been starting lately, and I got to give you props because myself, Dave Sharapian, and Brady Tinker did a show last night, and that was the first question that was asked. You were handed $100. Are you going to the window, and how are you betting it on the Brooklyn Nets? And I says, I'm following my friend Julian Edlow. I'm going to say no to the playoffs. I'm going to take the plus 1,000. And the reason is I think come All-Star break, come trade deadline, something's going to happen with these three. And one of them's going somewhere. You know, I think Kyrie might be still searching to see if the world's flat. I don't know by then. Give us your thoughts. You've been on this the whole time. They weren't breaking up the core. Give it to us good.
Well, so the reason they're not breaking up the core, the Nets wanted to. It's the Celtics that didn't want to make that trade and all the other teams that didn't want to give enough for Kevin Durant. So it's hard to trade Kevin Durant. Like, he's aging, I guess. He's 34, I want to say, 33, 34. He's had the Achilles. He's under contract for 4 years, which means he's not a rental. You need more for him. It's hard to trade him to a team where he would have pieces to win a championship without giving up the pieces that he wants to play with. It's tough. So it was just, and then Kyrie, like he was either going to have to take a $30 million pay cut to go to the Lakers or not. And he chose not to. Now that to me, basically, management's been called out, coaching's been called out. Now Durant's playing there. He doesn't want to be there. Kyrie's playing there. He doesn't want to be there. And they're going to be adding in a piece into the rotation in Ben Simmons, who commands the ball in his hands, but can't shoot and hasn't played by the time we see him, a year and a half. So every time the ball is in Simmons' hands, that's taking the ball out of Kyrie's hands and Durant's hands. That's fine by me. So I just don't see how it's all going to work. Durant said he doesn't want to be there. It's not like he changed his mind and wanted to be there. There's just not another option. Kyrie doesn't want to be there, but he's there. So missing the playoffs is a little aggressive. But they were in the play-in round last year with Durant and Kyrie. Now they missed chunks of the year. Durant was hurt for a portion. Kyrie had his stuff going on. But why is that not going to happen again? So maybe they are in the play-in, and then you just, if you have a plus 1,000 ticket, you can lay a minus 300 money line on the Nets if you need to in a play-in game. So yeah, I think there's a chance that this all comes undone at some point in time, and they could miss the playoffs. So I think plus 1,000 is, worth a small play. But really, I think the way to bet them coming undone is just to bet the under on the win total. I think it was 51.5 on DraftKings. The East is tough. Celtics, Sixers, Bucks, Heat, and that's not even getting to some of those younger upcoming teams. There's other good teams in the East right now, like we saw last season. So yeah, I think one way or another, the Nets are just going to fall short of expectations next season. The one thing I'm kicking myself for, I went on VSiN and said it. I tweeted it out at certain points in time. Betting Durant to just go back to the Nets was plus 300 at one point in time to just not get traded. So I think I missed getting down on that as much as I wanted to. But overall, yeah, I think things happened the way that I assumed they would. The Nets are back as constructed, and I don't think it's going to go well because none of them want to be there.
I mean, the bottom line is I talked about it last night is that the market kind of dried up, number one. Number two, when they went back and kicked the tires, they went to the Miamis, they went to the Toronto, says, hey, you got to do better than Jaylen Brown. Okay. And not a lot of these teams, I'm not saying Jaylen Brown is a top 5 guy in the NBA, but it's someone that if I was a GM, I have no problem building around because he's young enough. He's just getting into his prime. I think he wants the alpha dog tag, and with Tatum there, obviously he's not going to get that. So I was happy. I never wanted to break it up. And I think from a Celtics standpoint and a Brad Stevens standpoint, listen, you got to game 6 of the championship. As soon as the season was over, you added Gallinari, you added Brogdon. There was no reason at all to break up that core when you just added 2 key pieces that I think is just going to make this team even stronger and longer.
No, I've had a lot to say about Celtics roster construction ever since the Garnett-Pierce trade to Brooklyn. I've had an opinion. I've never thought that they're good as is. There's always a tinkering to be made, additions, upgrades. I like the Celtics the way that they're built right now. I really do. That roster that they had, their top 6-7 guys, won me over last year. Not that you're like Derek Whites and Grant Williams are the best in the world, but now you take those guys and move them down a couple seats on the bench for Malcolm Brogdon and Danilo Gallinari. Regular season, yeah, those guys, you're going to alternate. Brogdon plays this game, Smart plays this game, White plays this game. Gallinari and Horford are going to get a lot of nights off. And that's why I think, the last piece this team needs is a big that can come in and play 15 minutes and get you some starts because of how old Gallinari and Horford are combined with Rob Williams' health. So, you're going to have a guy that plays 10, 12 minutes in the normal rotation, but can come in and give you 25 to 30 when you need it in a regular season game. We're talking about, the Magic on a Wednesday night in January, not the playoffs. So, find that guy. I don't know exactly who it is. Find that guy as the last piece to kind of eat some regular season minutes and just be a big body there. But Celtics, as they stand, are in a pretty good spot. Maybe the best roster in the NBA.
Week 3 NFL, again, the locals just crushing the Patriots. It's still turmoil back there. I don't know what's going on with Kendrick Bourne and a few others, Trent Brown. Rumor had it sarcastically, they're in Vegas right now. They were going to leave Kendrick Bourne for Josh McDaniels if he wanted him. Are you buying into this? I mean, I'm going to just say this. Opening week last year, the Dolphins came in 2.5-point underdogs, and the Patriots had the game won. We know that. They fumbled it away. We got that part. Are you starting to, with all what you're hearing, how bad the Patriots look, starting to wonder why that line opening week hasn't been moving?
I've seen it. I think at DK Sportsbook at one point in time, we got to minus 115 on the Miami side. We just haven't seen it go to 3. It's probably just because it's so early and because the public still has this perception of, not fading the Patriots, in my opinion. As it gets closer, if they stink it up, if the starters stink it up in the 3rd preseason game, Vegas comes out and wins the first half by 14 points or something, maybe we get closer to that moving. But I think it's just because we haven't seen anything yet, concrete on the first team. And, when they came out there, after that first preseason game, they won the first half. It was starters against backups in that Carolina game. And the Patriots won that first half. This new offense that they're running, they're also going away from it in the preseason games. So maybe if it's not working in practice, the idea is that Belichick is going to run the usual Patriots offense in the games, and they're just experimenting with this new offense for if and when they need it. I don't know. It's kind of a confusing situation. It has me not getting invested in the Patriots in many ways, but I am on Miami minus 2.5 in week 1. I think it's a bad spot for the Patriots regardless. of how their preseason looked. But when you factor in that they just haven't looked good at all, and we're going to have to see them go out there and prove it in a real game against Miami's number ones for the whole game, I think Miami's the side. The only red flag for the Dolphins for me this year is really just a lot of offseason noise and a rookie head coach. But in terms of their talent, Miami's the side.
Since our last talk last week of this time, have you added any NFL tickets to your portfolio, or are you still in a sit and wait mode right now?
I haven't bet a ton of NFL, honestly. My week 1 card is the Dolphins -2.5, and then I got in early on the Saints. I think when I put it out, it was I think the Saints -4 at Atlanta and the Broncos -4 in Seattle. I expect both of those to move. They have moved. They'll continue to move. The Saints, I'm going to let roll. I'm comfortable with them. The Broncos one, I think that could get to a touchdown at Seattle. And we were talking about this on the Diehards last night on Sports Map Radio. It's a little bit reminiscent of that early game of Brady coming back to New England when everybody was on Tampa, and Tampa did ultimately win on a Patriots missed field goal, but New England hung in and covered. Can Seattle hang in and cover? Now, they've looked awful in preseason at times. I think the Broncos are going to win this game, but if 7.5 is there to buy back and look for a middle, I'll probably do it. But those are the 3 games that I've played. Other ones that I'm looking at, the Bucks. You can take the Bucks money line in that Sunday night game against the Cowboys. I'm down. These O-line injuries are concerning, but I'm pretty down on the Cowboys this year. I might be looking at a win total underplay on them. I think Tampa wins that first Sunday night game. And then another one, I don't like Tennessee very much this year, and the Giants. That one was 7. That one's moved off a touchdown. You can still get 6 with the Giants against the Titans. I don't mind that one for a dog. I think it's over the last 5 years. Favorites are hitting 37% in week 1, something like that. So you don't want to be betting too many favorites. And I am betting some favorites. I'm just hoping they're the right ones.
I mean, obviously you lived the Brady Belichick for 2 decades like myself. I could speak for hours. My thoughts, the chicken or the egg, who was first. They both fed off of each other. The Patriots would not be where they are without each other. The 2 weeks off, the Masked Singer, yada, yada, yada. Just your thoughts with Tom, what's going on there? Did he really want to be with the Dolphins? I mean, deep down, I think he's going to at some point be part owners or a part of the Dolphins. That line smells so bad to me. You talked about Tampa -1 here. Dallas opened up at Tampa last year, if I remember correctly, on that Thursday night. And you just talked about your lean to Tampa. You just think Tom's just at that stage in his career. It's just plug and play. Just give me the ball and we're going to run with it.
Yeah, I think that he can take time off in training camp and be fine. And there's not many guys, training camp's tough. There's not many guys that you can just let go for a week in training camp, and the teammates and everything are just okay with it. Especially if he was just with his family in the Bahamas. Like, who gets to do that? Only Tom Brady. Like, he's 45. He's done this so many times. I guess he's earned it, and that's fine if the team feels that way and the team's cool with it. He retired, and I think part of the agreement of him coming back was that he would have to do things like this. Now, it's not going to happen during the regular season, I wouldn't think. Maybe he gets the bye week to do this again. But this is just where he is at this stage. I would assume this is his last year because he did retire and come back, and now he's doing like family things in season to a degree. It feels like this is probably the last year, and the compromise was that you have to do some family things as well. And Tom Brady took that to the Bucks, and the Bucks said, well, we can either give Tom Brady a couple of weeks off during the season here and there when we have it, training camp, bye week, whatever, or we can move on to Kyle Trask or whoever. And that was an easy decision for them. And here we are. And I think Brady's capable of not needing to be there every week to contribute the way he needs to contribute. The O-line is the issue. They got to figure out the O-line with all these unfortunate camp injuries. But if they can do that, Brady's going to be fine. And the targets he has are ridiculous.
I woke up this morning and I thought of you immediately when I was looking at the baseball lines. It's a Brian Bello day, and we have talked.
Yeah, and against Toronto smoked him in one of those games.
Team totals 5 and a hook again. Toronto crushed them last night. It's against Berrios, who we know is hit or miss, Jekyll and Hyde. Have you even took a little dive into that, or are you just going to wait and see on that one?
I saw it, and I was going to look. I haven't even looked yet. I was hoping the team total was going to be 4.5. You're telling me 5.5. That's a lot. Anytime it's a 5.5 and it's like not at cores, you got to get 6 runs. That's a lot. And the Red Sox got smoked last night, so I didn't watch the game. I was doing the radio show, but I assume they didn't use any important bullpen pieces, and they're all set up for today. Baseball is impossible, man. I got to think of what's my most recent gripe. I can't even remember the last one, but it never happens the way that it's supposed to. I had a Red Sox first 5 team total. I had over 2.5 on for the first 5 on Saturday. The guy pitching for the Orioles throws like BP. He's got like an 8 ERA. They score 1 run, they don't get there. And of course, what do? They get to 3 in the 6th inning. So it cashes an inning later. It never happens the way that it needs to.
No, baseball is one of those sports where it's almost like we're a day early. I've had numerous 0-3 days, and if you just took those 3 plays and just auto bet them the next day, they all come running right to the window like clockwork.
I played the Dodgers first 5 on Friday night. Scoreless game. They wound up winning by 1. The next day, they're up like 7-0 through 5. This was the Marlins series. There's your day early right there.
Week 0. We've been talking for weeks and weeks, Julian. You've been giving us some great insight on college football. A handful of games on week 0. I don't want to say the headliner, but the first game from Ireland, Nebraska, and Northwestern, the line opened at 10.5, all the way up to 13 in some spots. If you go to gambling Twitter or you look, the whole world's on Northwestern, yet the line keeps going and going up. Any tickets there? Or are you just watching and waiting and just going to maybe sift through week 0?
Yeah, I don't know what it means. I don't like week 0 very much. There were some early games that I did well with last year that just popped to me, and those aren't really there this year, so I'm not going to try and force it. I think that the 2 games that will be the most popular to bet are that and the Vanderbilt-Hawaii game. If I play the Nebraska-Northwestern game, it's going to be taking the near 2 touchdowns with Northwestern. Nebraska did smoke them last year, but I don't trust them this early in the season in a game overseas in Ireland. Like, I don't know, Scott Frost, they were favorites against Illinois last year in a week 0 game. They lost that game outright, which helped me easily cash an under ticket on Nebraska win total. I don't get the love on Nebraska. Like, this is the year they're going to turn around. They're 7.5 win total this year. They're going to go 8-4. I don't see that. I assume they're going to beat Northwestern here, but I don't see that win total coming through. In the other game I have bet, I do have some Vandy minus 6.5. And I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Vanderbilt should be the better team. You're always concerned with teams traveling to the island, but it's week 0. They're already there. Like, they're going to be caught up time-wise, adjustment-wise, and classes haven't started. Like, this is not like going to Hawaii in October, November. It's week 0. So I'm not as concerned about that. Hawaii's bad. Vanderbilt's bad also. Hawaii's worse. But you look at some people like your Kenny Whites and your Brad Powers, college football guys, they've got this game at like 3-4 is the appropriate number. So you're not getting good value on Vandy. However, you look at that line yesterday. Where did it move? Last I looked, Hawaii was +8, 8.5 now. I haven't checked this morning. So you can go for a little middle if you did get in early. I think Vandy's the side up to 7. Otherwise, I wouldn't play it. So those are the two, I guess, kind of leans for week 0. UTEP's getting some love too. I know they were like 3 or 4 point dogs. It's now like a pick 'em. Last night on Sports Map Radio, Diehards, we talked to Drew Martin, who liked him, and we talked to Brad Powers, who liked him in that game. So maybe there's another one for you.
I know week 1 you'll have a lot of love and eyes in the swamp. You've talked at length here on your love for Utah. I've seen them. What are they up to, around -2 now? Is that correct?
2.5. DraftKings was one of the last places that had 2. I'm not sure if we still have it. I can check that out though. Let's see. So yeah, I mean, if you're playing this game, and I think it went to 2.5 when I wrote my week 1 article, which I'll add to. You can do something like add whatever Ohio State money line is how I wrote it up, and now you're getting even money. Just Utah money line, Ohio State money for even money. Ohio State's not losing to Notre Dame. I know we're both going to be on the team total over. I think it'll be a blowout, but we don't quite know what the defense is. So maybe Notre Dame hangs around, which would put the game total over for sure. I'm fine if you want to play over 58 in that game. But for me, it'll be whatever, 37.5, let's say, Ohio State team total. They're getting into the 40s. But for the Utah game, yeah, I think Utah wins that game. I think they're the better team. This is a big early test for both teams. So yeah, being on the road is, I guess, makes it tougher for Utah. But Florida, new head coach Napier stepping up from one of the smaller conferences to the SEC, and having to play a team that went to the Rose Bowl and competed with Ohio State last year. When you get a new coach that you got talent going in, talent going out, you got to gel it all together early against a team that should be ready to go, a coach that should be ready to go, and Kyle Whittingham. Part of the cap for Utah for the year, why I love them to get to double-digit wins, is because I think they're going to get this game. So yeah, just more experience, and I'm not as worried about them being on the road because of that.
Last couple minutes, I want to give you the full stage here. For everyone that's watching and listening, and a lot of people download the podcast after the show, or they go over to YouTube and rewatch the show. Julian, talk to them about the benefits of DraftKings, the sports book, what there is there for all the options. I mean, it's endless what you can do there, and what you're trying to do to entice potentially new customers to say, come on board, at least take a look here, because like I said, the options are endless. It's not even close to any other app sports book around right now.
Yeah, and it'll be fun once we're up and running mobily in Massachusetts, just because it's our home state. I say our meaning us, but also meaning DraftKings. So we'll have some fun promotions and be able to run some fun events locally, which will be really cool. And I think that'll help people around come and see some of the new markets. But if you're in a legal state already, you've probably seen it. But go to college football, go to NFL, scroll through it. You can bet on essentially anything that you want. And like I say, if it's not there, then ask me, and we'll try and get it up for you. College football wise, I did get a new market in the last week. I had been asking for this one for a while, and we got it up. If you go to college football, there's a season specials tab. This one is just the teams I think that are going to play in the national championship. The 2 best teams in college football are Alabama and Ohio State. Their win totals on DraftKings Sportsbook are both set at 10.5, but we know it seems like these teams are not going to lose 2 regular season games, which is why Alabama to go over is -300. Ohio State to go over is like -250. So I wanted a way to back those 2 teams together. You can't parlay win totals. But we got it. So this season special tab is just Alabama and Ohio State to both have 11 or more regular season wins. So they can each afford to drop one, and you're safe there. You win, you don't push. And we got that at minus 115. So affordable juice, a way you don't have to lay 300 on Bama, 250 on Ohio State. You go bet them both together at minus 115 and hope that neither of them drops 2 games, which would be a massive disappointment of a season for either of them.
I'll close with this. I talked about this last night with Dave Sharapan and Brady Tinker. Last year, Georgia was just, their defense was at another level. I mean, it was the 85 Bears, and they had nothing to play for in the SEC championship. They knew they were already in the Final Four. Yet again, another team with a 10.5. I'm not putting them in the Alabama, we don't rebuild, we reload, because I know Georgia gets top recruits. I'm not saying they don't. They get speed, and more speed. But on the defensive side, their whole defense, most of them is in the NFL this year. And are they overpriced? I mean, I can't you see a Tennessee? I don't have the schedule in front of you, but a Tennessee and A&M, someone picking them off, and they do have those 2 losses this year, or is that just plug and play with them as well?
No, I think I would probably play Georgia. Like, I agree with you. I just don't know how you bet that. So, like, you can bet no. They're essentially a pick 'em to make the college football playoff, like minus 115 or minus 120. I would bet the no there. But if you're betting the no there, that essentially means that you think Alabama is going to beat them in the SEC championship game. So I would just bet Alabama to win the SEC, because I think that has to happen for Georgia to miss. So you look at Georgia's schedule, they're going to be double-digit favorites in every game. They have a pretty easy schedule. They do have Tennessee. They have Kentucky. I would take over on 10.5. I don't think they're going to lose twice in the regular season, but I do think somebody catches them once along the way. So if they're 11-1 going into the SEC championship game and they lose to Alabama, now they're 11-2, and no 2-loss team has ever made the college football playoff. So my feel for Georgia is that they go 11-1 and then lose to Alabama in the SEC championship game. I don't know who beats them. It's hard to pick these things when you're saying, like, they're going to be a double-digit favorite every week. Where's the spot where they slip? I don't know. I'm just going to say I do think that they slip once in the regular season, which they didn't last year. Usually when you're undefeated, you have one slip the next year. And yeah, they lost 8 defensive starters. They had 9 defensive players drafted in the NFL. So that lights out defense is gone. So maybe a Tennessee offense that can average like 45 points a game, maybe that's the team that gets them, 34-31 or something like that. So yeah, that's my take. It's kind of loose. There's not really a way to bet it. But I think the way to bet it is Alabama in the SEC title game. I guess the only thing is, could it be like last year where Georgia is 11-1 and Alabama's 12-0 and Georgia needs it and Alabama doesn't? But I would still like Alabama in that game, I think. So yeah, I think it's just Alabama to win the SEC is my best bet on Georgia, if that makes sense.
Makes 100%. And I like that thought process, the switch where Bama's undefeated and Georgia with 1 loss. Again, Bama.
That's what I'm expecting. But like, if Alabama slips up once too, and they're both 11-1 going into that game, and that's a playoff game now. Now those teams are both looking to play 3 playoff games, and that's the first round. That would be exciting, and I would most certainly be on Alabama.
The scroll has been working the whole time. If you're not following, please do. Julian Edlow at DraftKings, at DK Sportsbook, at DK Live, and of course, catch him on his podcast at an Unreasonable Odd podcast. And I have to personally thank you for moving your weekly Tuesday to Wednesday. Thank you so much, Julian.
No problem. Easy switch, Jeff. Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me, man.
All right. Have a great week, sir.
You too.
the one and only Julian Edlow, right down the road from me, about 40 minutes, I'd say. Like I said, over the Sagamore Bridge, down Route 3, over to 93, and presto, bango, boom, bang, boom, we're there. Today, 4:30, mark it on your calendar, the one and only Dubs Anderson back. He's had about 3-4 weeks off. He's been traveling. He's been everywhere. He's back. We're going to talk the FedEx Cup. And yes, it's a little unique where Scotty Scheffler sits at the top -10, and then the rest of the characters are -8, and so on and so forth, trying to catch Scotty Scheffler for the FedEx Cup. And I think 2 shots back or 3 shots back was the big Z, Willie Z, who I think is out as well. So that'll be interesting at 4:30. I'm going to try to squeeze Riley Magnuson from the Windy City in between. We got a lot of day baseball, so we're going to try to do a midday market report in the next hour or two, so stay tuned there. So for myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, from Julian Edlow at DraftKings, at DK Sportsbook, at DK Live, and of course at Julian Edlow, we thank him as always. And everyone here betting, if you are betting today, you grabbed a couple of those tickets that Julian was talking about, please do it responsibly. There's an 800 number available if there is a problem. Just pick up the phone. Why? I care. I want to see you here today, tomorrow, next week, next month through 2022 and beyond. From myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, I wish you a great morning. Go grab a Dunks, a Starbucks, a cup of Joe, whatever you got to do, and come see us soon. Me and Riley will be talking today's baseball market. There's about a half dozen day baseball games. We'll get you ready. See you soon.